YouTube as a platform started up on February 14, 2005. The media juggernaut soon became the staple website for accessing media of every kind imaginable. The interesting thing about YouTube, however, is that every person has the ability to upload videos to the site, thus providing an opportunity to build communities that can amount to millions of active followers. Although the overwhelming success of these individuals, the traditional media and older generations failed to acknowledge these communities as sites in which ideas were shared and ideologies are engaged with. These YouTubers utilize appropriation in the YouTube platform as a means to magnify their personalities across the World Wide Web. The emergence of these so-called YouTubers and commentators were, and still are, a prospect that these old medias would simply not accept. This essay will lay down the groundwork and evidence to explore the notion that YouTube channels exhibit site-like properties, with comparisons drawn to physical site-specific works, specific instances in YouTube's history, and discussions surrounding sociological, psychological, and contemporary research to extrapolate what could have made these places sites. Drawing on Douglas's examinations in Serra's public sculpture redefining site specificity, the digital structure of these communities will be discussed in relation to their placeless surroundings. The ideas of the YouTuber and how they could be constructed will be dissected for their monument-like properties in comparison with Fuson's proposal of heterotopic spaces, and Fernandez's Alvarez's will a cyborg still Majewisan conscious labor and enjoying body of the virtual. Additionally, the economic issues of individuality and creativity that arose from self-gain through the appropriation of popular medias will be dismantled using Ahmed's orientations towards queer phenomenology to analyze the perspective gaze that commentators provide, and finally, underline the emergence of new media and the social power that generates from creating these active sites and its danger to all the older forms of media. YouTube channels, placeless sites. The idea of a site came about through the habituation of the space. If one thought of a site, the first response would have been maybe an architectural structure such as the Nest at UBC or a monument such as the Statue of Liberty. These standing objects exhibit normal physical characteristics of sites such as volume by simply taking up space. These sites also manipulate the physical environment around them via their medium and prompt sociological and psychological responses through their placement and intentions. The problem that rises when you look at the virtual sites is that they do not have a visual, concrete description that exists in a singular space. Even though servers that circulate their code do exist, I argue that they do not act as reliable sites as they are not visually representative to what is truly expressed in those sites. The most obvious answer to this argument is to look at the naming convention. They are web sites, a network of sites that exist upon a virtual web that strings them all together. There are a multitude of such webs and subwebs that exist online that house all the content within them, but the communication between them is more reminiscent of a fungal root network that is best illustrated in Wreck-It Ralph 2. With the never-ending number of journalists, news websites, social media posts, and videos circulating around, the internet became more of a connected network of constant growth rather than an immobilized structure, as a single disturbance can cascade endlessly through it. Even with that fundamental difference, YouTube channels act upon the same principles as normal sites through a network of instances. Unlike common conventions, YouTube channels do take up space. Screen space, which is how many inches and pixels can your screen showcase and how much area that channel occupies within that space. The most important thing to remember is that your viewing is not the only viewing of the channel. There are thousands, sometimes millions of people viewing either the same or different video within the space of the channel at different points of time and speeds. It might be even possible to construct a full video length within a second of real time. Thus, the site becomes a collection of every instance of its existence rather than an individual viewing of it, as the space becomes a factor of time. YouTube channels also affect their surroundings by displaying these sounds and videos, and evoke emotions through their content that is presented. In turn, that multitude of instances could also rob the YouTube channel of its specificity, as defined by physical sites, as rooted structures exhibit a uniform understanding of themselves in relation to their surroundings and duration. Aside from the individuality and creative choices of the content creator, which will be discussed further in the essay, these sites could exist as self-categorization within the confines of the channel page itself. as a screen space which remains static until a human interferes. A YouTube channel is a great example for a site that exists in a void or nothingness that Barrett describes in her lecture Troubling Times and Ecologies of Nothingness. The channel exists as a purely objective, confined sphere of nothing until a viewer pokes its surface with their gaze like a needle and make the site subjective. Now, the channel becomes a constantly expanding matrix of works that exist within and outside time. Duration exists within a YouTube channel in two ways. First, there's a duration in which the site has existed. This time can start even when the account for the channel was created or when the first video was uploaded. This time could be called the systematic time, as it is governed by natural perception of time, natural systems. The second time that exists in a YouTube channel is the algorithmic time, or the time that exists as the accumulation of recorded time within the channel. This time comes to be when every second of each video is added together for the grand numerical value that dictates the amount of work present that YouTube's algorithm can work, distribute, and collect data on. Now that we outline a YouTube's channel does have a relative space that exists within a nothingness, a time that exists in two forms simultaneously, and that as a principle the works showcase and promote certain beliefs and emotions, it looks as though YouTube channels could be considered sites, but their specificity still remains in question. Digital phenomena, YouTuber as a heterotopia. Explaining site specificity within the YouTube environment is a two-step process. First, we need to talk about the content creator, and second, the content itself. It is my belief that these YouTubers act as social heterotopic monuments to their communities. A monument, by definition, is an unsteady central structure that exists within a space. As a front-facing figure that appears in every thumbnail, description, and image of the channel, a YouTuber could very well be existing as a monument as well. This goes even further for gaming content creators, as their personal space invades an otherwise complete work, either at the top or bottom left of the screen space. The entire conglomerate understanding and respect of the channel always starts and comes back to that personality, so what could this persona possibly be? It's a heterotopic monument of deviance. According to Fasson, a heterotopia is a, quote, a sort of a mixed joint experience, end quote, that exists in response to culturally and subconscious determined aspect of the space. A YouTuber acts as the monument for the site because they alone have the long enough needle to add, remove, and shift the space, time, and duration of the channel. Just like Fasson's example of a hospital or a prison, the YouTubers can impede or promote certain behavior, action, and reaction from their audience. The most common example of this heterotopic principle is the constant reminder to like, subscribe, and share the video with their friends, as it raises the YouTuber's algorithmic time. However, it is important to distinguish that the confines of the channel are not the heterotopia, because that is a space not owned but only controlled by the YouTuber. The channel only exists as a vessel in the digital void to project the personality outwards, thus aligning it to Fasson's second and third principles, in which it has a precise and determined function within a society, end quote, and grants the heterotopic persona to, quote, juxtapose in a single real space in several spaces, end quote. A YouTube channel then lets the YouTuber exist in multiple places at once while still existing within their confined real-world surroundings, as they exist in a physical space, but the imprint of them still exists within the channel's void. The flexibility of a YouTuber arises from that persona is having a monument that communicates, relates, and improves on a day-to-day basis to create a powerful connection between the heterotopia and those that step in it. It is the want of the many that affect the mind of the one. There is also the important distinction between other living monuments such as Hollywood celebrities, as these monuments exist just like the Statue of Liberty does, as monuments that convey meanings but are alienated from society by their size or prestige, though still worshipped. A YouTuber engages, reacts, and exists as a relatable figure, maybe even the first relatable monument. Fernandez Olivier's Will a Cyborg Still Major Son, Unconscious Labor and the Journey of the Body of the Virtual raises a secondary understanding about the construction of YouTube monuments. In the article, Fernandez elaborates on the foundation of our digital society and how corporations are able to analyze, manipulate, and engineer experiences through video games, user interfaces, ads, etc. I believe that another reason that YouTubers are in fact monuments is that they can be engineered the same way as monuments can. Public monuments are often constructed with ideologies and political views in mind. Looking at the Statue of Liberty again as an example, the monument exists as a symbol of democracy and the relations between the US and France, as it was constructed as a gift from France. As a personality and is a collection of experiences and influences, I want to direct your eyes towards Jake and Logan Paul, brothers, rivals, filthy rich, attention seekers, and controversy creators. It was no mistake that these individuals were chosen by investors to represent a consumerist fantasy. Their handsome appearances, tall, blonde, had worked perfectly with their straightness and bombastic personality to cater to young, impressionable children with dreams of becoming famous. Their one goal is to sell. They live in extravagant houses and have every luxury, and as monuments often influence certain behavior, their capitalist ideations are generated by these greedy investors, and their position lets them sell out their monument properties for monetary gain. For example, out of a 17-minute video, 7 minutes of it are exclusively reserved to promote their brand. For example, out of a 13-minute video, 7 minutes of it are exclusively reserved to promote their brand, clothing, and other products that they market. This is more than double the amount of time spent on advertising on cable TV, only here it can't be distinguished from number programming. Thus, these corporate investors engineered a viewable paradise for a consumerist capitalist society, bringing to light that, quote, the virtual world has the power to organize our desires algorithmically.